Welcome to 7:30. Tonight, the gay community calls today's same-sex marriage vote a slap in the face.
When you have a gay child, you realise that that child is seen as second-rate in its own country, and that is not fair at all.
Marriage equality has been roundly defeated in the federal parliament by 98 votes to 42. Along the way, it claimed the scalp of a controversial coalition frontbencher. Senator Cory Bernardi resigned for saying passage of the bill could lead to bestiality one day being recognised as marriage. His departure was designed to send a broader message to coalition troops that the leader won't tolerate anything that diverts the party from its main game. Political editor Chris Yeoman reports.
There is no more conservative warrior in Parliament than South Australian Liberal Senator Cory Bernardi.
At that stage, I was one of many that said this was another step that would undermine marriage.
Last night, he stepped up to speak for tradition in the same-sex marriage debate.
And today we see the next step taking place. It is another push, and it's not the first one, it won't be the last one, I'm sure, another push for same-sex marriage.
The trajectory was clear.
What is the next step? The next step, quite frankly, is having three people that love each other should be able to enter into a permanent union endorsed by society, or four people.
But it was the conclusion that caused the difficulty.
There are even some creepy people out there, and I say creepy, who are afforded, unfortunately, a great deal more respect than I believe they should, who say that, you know, it's okay to have consensual sexual relations between humans and animals, and you know, will that be a future step? Will that be one of the things that say, well, you know, these two creatures love each other, you know, maybe they should be able to join in a union?
By morning, the Greens were demanding his head.
I'm calling on Tony Abbott to disassociate himself from the views that are being expressed by Cory Bernardi and to sack him.
And they weren't alone.
It's more than hysterical, it's bizarre, and it's incredibly offensive.
There's history here. When he was leader, Malcolm Turnbull sacked Cory Bernardi for a blog attacking fellow South Australian Christopher Pyne, and Mr Pyne and Senator Bernardi's hatred for each other is legendary.
And I don't want people to think that they represent the views of the Liberal Party. They do not.
The effect of Malcolm Turnbull's intervention was to lift the pressure on Tony Abbott to act. And on 891 ABC Adelaide, the senator was compounding the problem. He rang in to defend his comments, interrupting a regular segment that involved Christopher Pyne.
Well, then there are any number of people who will feel disgruntled and concerned that their lifestyle choices are not being accepted. And already we've had...
Including if your lifestyle choice, if you could describe it as that, is to have sex with animals.
Well, are
you seriously suggesting that?
Let's just deal with polyamory for a moment. We've had...
No, you raised animals as well.
Yeah, indeed, and I'll get to that in just a moment.
It was all over by lunchtime.
Last night, Senator Cory Bernardi made some ill-disciplined comments to the Senate. He compounded the offence by repeating these comments on radio today. I had a conversation with Senator Bernardi. As a result of that conversation, he offered his resignation, and I've accepted his resignation.
Cory Bernardi's supporters say he could have survived the speech, but not interrupting Christopher Pyne on Adelaide radio. They believe he offered an opening his opponents had long been looking for, and that he would have been sacked if he hadn't resigned. They also believe he was an easy target for the leader to make a broader point.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that I have sent a very strong message to every member of the team that ill discipline is unacceptable. I think it's pretty clear that if you want to freelance, you can do so on the back bench, but you can't freelance from the front bench.
Thank you, Mr President.
The sacking cleared the way for Tony Abbott to elevate two talented backbenchers, John Howard's former Chief of Staff, Arthur Sinodinos, and South Australian Jamie Briggs.
I am very proud to be putting both of them into the full ministry. I know they're going to make a very strong contribution, and I do have an even stronger team as a result of these changes.
Tony Abbott finished to the sound of the bells. calling him to the lower house to vote on the same-sex marriage bill. With the coalition bound to vote against it, the result was never in doubt. But a large part of Labor's caucus, including the Prime Minister and Treasurer, cast their conscience vote against the bill.
42-98. You won. They lost, OK?
So this bill would have failed even if the coalition had been given a conscience vote. But from the Greens' worldview, the House of Representatives isn't representative.
Rather than accepting that this is an issue that Australians want to see us deliver on, they want to see this reform happen, they want to see equal love recognised, the parliamentarians and their political parties and the factions failed.
The dismay of those who had fought so hard for change was palpable.
It doesn't matter, as a parent, how much you can provide your children love, security, education and stability, as when you have a gay child, you realise that that child is seen as second-rate in its own country, and that is not fair. Not fair at all.
There are moves afoot to bring a civil unions bill before Parliament.
I haven't got a plan to bring it forward myself, but there are a number of other members who I am in very close touch with. One, Warren Entsch, you're familiar with Warren's initiative there, and I'm sure that when, as I suspect, the gay marriage bill, for want of a better word, is defeated, I think the civil union legislation, I'm very hopeful, will then be considered and I hope passed.
But activists are now pinning their hopes on the states, with Tasmania due to vote on a same-sex marriage bill next week.
We're not giving up. If something's worth having, it's worth fighting for. We'll see this reform happen state by state and territory by territory, and that'll continue to put pressure